12 miraculous biblical sites revealed, discover their incredible transformations today. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, when the breath of oppression filled the air, a humble brickmaker named Eleazar stood at the edge of the Red Sea, heart racing and mind churning. The evening sun cast long shadows over the waters, and memories of chains forged in Egypt flooded his thoughts. Generations had suffered beneath the lash of their taskmasters. Now, as the sound of chariots thundered from behind, accompanied by the shouts of Pharaoh's soldiers, Eleazar felt the bitterness of despair stir within him. The Israelites clustered around him, faces pale with fear. Some groaned and cried out, while others grasped their children, their eyes wide with terror. Would the God of our ancestors truly deliver us? He wondered, the weight of doubt clawing at his faith. It was then that he recalled Moses' words, the promise of liberation, a future filled with hope. Yet, the chains of uncertainty tightened around his heart, suffocating him as he stood like a pebble on the brink of the vast unknown. Amidst the panic, Moses raised his staff high, his voice steady like a mighty rock against crashing waves. Fear not. Stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. Eleazar watched intently as Moses stretched his hand over the chaotic sea. Suddenly, a mighty wind began to blow, causing the waters to tremble before them. With awe, the sea parted, revealing a dry path through the depths, a tangible sign of God's presence. The Israelites gasped collectively, their eyes wide with disbelief and wonder. The towering walls of water on either side shimmered in the dying sunlight, inviting them deep into the unknown. Eleazar felt a flicker of hope ignite within him, urging him forward. With a pounding heart, he stepped onto the dry ground, the promise of God manifesting beneath his feet. As the Israelites began to cross, each step mirrored a spiritual awakening in Eleazar. He sensed the presence of God enveloping him, a sacred conviction that fueled his resolve. The thrumming air resonated with ancestral whispers urging them onward toward the promised land. But doubt was a relentless foe. What lay ahead? Would they emerge unscathed from Pharaoh's wrath? Would they inherit the covenant promise made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? The screams of the Egyptians grew louder behind them, a cacophony of vengeance. The urgency sparked inside Eleazar. He could not linger in fear. This moment tested his faith, forcing him to confront the God who called them his own. With each footfall, he surrendered the shackles of doubt. Every breath became an act of worship, a declaration of trust in the Almighty. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. With one final step, Eleazar crossed onto solid ground, but behind him, the ground trembled as the waters crashed back together, sealing their escape from Egypt's grip. Eleazar paused, breathless and exhilarated. What did this miraculous act signify for them? They were no longer slaves, yet the journey had just begun. Uncertainty loomed over their future, but as they gathered together, the sound of fear quieted, replaced by the burgeoning hope that flowed within them. They stood on the threshold of destiny, a chance to become a covenant people. What would their faith demand of them next? And so, the Israelites found themselves once more upon the shores of promise, the salty breeze stilled with reverence as they beheld the binding miracle that had just set them free. Eleazar looked among his fellow travelers, their faces now aglow with the light of newfound faith. As Moses lowered his staff, the weight of the past fell away, yet an inexplicable fear lingered in the hearts of many. In the stillness, Moses turned to the people, his countenance ablaze with determination. Hear me, O Israel! The Lord your God has delivered you from the hand of Pharaoh and the bondage of Egypt. Trust in him, for he will lead you to the land flowing with milk and honey. His words resonated deeply, echoing through the assembly like a clarion call. Yet even as the people's spirits soared, uncertainty crept into their hearts, questions tangled in the depths of their minds. Eleazar felt the same flicker of fear reignite. As he looked across the group, he knew they would face trials on the way to that land of promise. They had escaped, but the path ahead was uncharted. In that midst of uncertainty, a voice from the crowd uttered, "What shall we eat while we wander? What sustenance will keep our strength?" The murmurs of discontent grew, swelling like an approaching storm. Moses, sensing the unrest, raised his arms as he had done at the Red Sea. "Wait upon the Lord. He is our provider." As he prayed for guidance, Eleazar watched and prayed too, his heart yearning for assurance. Would God indeed provide for his people even here in this wilderness? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting brilliant shades of gold and crimson, something miraculous took place. A gust of wind stirred among the Israelites, and with it, a light formed in the distance, bright and luminous, shimmering against the twilight. Eleazar felt an inexplicable pull, his feet moving toward the light. The crowd followed, curiosity tempered with hope. From that radiant glow emerged a figure, an angel of the Lord, whose voice resonated like thunder yet soothed like balm. "Fear not, for I come with good news. The Lord God has heard your cries and sees your affliction. He will feed you abundantly and quench your thirst." Moses stood still, his heart rejoicing as the people gasped and began to praise. "You shall receive bread from heaven. Each morning, your provisions will be laid before you. Trust is required of you, for without faith, the promise remains distant." In unison, they cried out, "We shall trust. We shall follow." Laughter and joyful shouts filled the air, and Eleazar's heart beat in harmony with their faith. Even amidst the fears and uncertainties, a thread of divine revelation wove among them. God would provide, not just for the immediate needs but for the generational promises made before. But in the shadows of their celebration, Eleazar felt the weight of one particular truth tugging at his spirit. Was it only a matter of time before they would lose sight of the miracle? Would they remain steadfast in their gratitude, or would the trials of the desert harden their hearts? The light of the angel's presence dimmed, yet the hope ignited in Eleazar's heart kindled the flames of resolve. At that moment it was clear, their journey was not just about reaching the promised land but also about forming a people who could face trials, hungry and thirsty, while trusting in their God. And a holy whisper echoed within him, "The time has come for God's great provision, yet there are trials ahead that must be faced before entering the rest. Stay close to me, for my wonders shall unfold." Thus, as the encampment settled for the night, with hearts lifted in praise and anticipation, one question shimmered through their collective spirit: what will tomorrow bring in the journey of faith? And it came to pass in the early dawn, as the sun began to cast its warm glow upon the encampment, that the Israelites awoke with a sense of expectancy. The dew hung like jewels upon the grass, reflecting the promise of the day ahead. Eleazar stirred, his heart still echoing the angel's words from the previous night. Would this be the day God's provision would manifest? Moses rose before the people and cried out, "Gather, O Israel! For today we shall witness the hand of the Lord in our midst. Prepare your hearts and minds." The Israelites gathered, their faces reflecting a mixture of hope and anxiety. The Lord has spoken through his messenger, today he shall provide the bread of heaven. A curious silence fell over the people as Moses led them to the edge of the camp, where the rocky terrain met the wilderness. Anticipation crackled in the air. Eleazar could feel the tension as he stood shoulder to shoulder with his brethren, eyes wide with wonder. Then, as the first light of day pierced the horizon, a strange falling began. It was a fine, round substance, like a frost on the ground. The people gazed in astonishment as Moses instructed them, "Gather what you need for the day, 1 omer for each person. It is the bread the Lord has given you to sustain you." With shouts of wonder, they rushed forth, those weary from their journey, experience igniting faith anew within them. Eleazar knelt to scoop up the delicate flakes and marveled at their sweetness. As he tasted, he could feel strength restore his weary body. "This is indeed miraculous," he exclaimed, turning to his neighbor. Yet, amidst the joy, murmurs spread once more. What if we gather too little? What if our portions run dry? Voices echoed in the crowd, revealing the fears that still gripped hearts. Moses, discerning their concerns, raised his voice in assurance. Do not fear, for the Lord knows your needs. Each morning, you shall gather according to his command, and every evening, quench your thirst with the water he will provide. As the days passed, bread continued to rain down from heaven, yet with it came God's challenge on the sixth day. He commanded them to gather twice as much to prepare for the Sabbath. A day of rest, set apart, Moses declared, as a reminder that the Lord is our sustenance. On this day, we will cease from our labor and remember the Creator who formed the heavens and the earth. Some, however, did not heed Moses' words. They ventured forth on the Sabbath, seeking bread as they had in days past. But when they returned empty-handed, confusion and dismay flickered among them. Why has this happened? They murmured, looking to Moses for answers. You have been given the gift of rest, and in your doubt, you have lost sight of his promise, he replied with a heavy heart. Were you not shown his faithfulness in the wilderness? Shall we not trust in his provision? As the people pondered, a lesson unfolded within their souls. God was shaping not only their circumstances but their very hearts, teaching them reliance, obedience, and faith in his everlasting provision. But amidst these trials grew a nagging truth in Eleazar's spirit. What about those who could not trust, who instead hoarded what God had given? Was there purpose behind such disobedience, a deeper lesson wrapped in their journey? And so he pondered this, as the people returned to their encampment, gradually learning to trust not just in daily bread but in the God who gave it. A sacred whisper echoed in his mind, in this wandering, hearts shall be tested, yet remember, greater trials still lie ahead. For the journey to the promised land is only the beginning of my unfolding plan. And it came to pass, as the sun ascended into the heavens, casting shadows that danced amongst the tents of Israel, that a deep stillness settled over the camp. Eleazar, still grappling with the lessons learned from the day prior, gathered with the others to recount the wonders they had experienced. Voices rose in song, declaring the goodness of the Lord for his provision, yet within the hearts of some lingered doubt and discontent. On the morrow, Moses summoned the elders and said, Gather unto me the leaders of your tribes, for the Lord has further instruction for us. Let us make a lasting witness to his mighty works. The elders approached, their faces lined with weariness yet glowing with the hope ignited by God's steadfast provision. Speak, Moses, for we are listening. Moses declared, From the very bread of heaven that has been bestowed upon us, let us take an omer and keep it as a testimony, a memorial for generations to come, that we might remember how the Lord fed us in the wilderness, sustaining our journey to the promised land. And thus, he directed Aaron to gather a golden jar and fill it with manna, sealing the lid tightly. This shall be kept before the Lord, as a sign of his eternal covenant with us, he commanded. And Aaron obeyed, placing it in the Ark of the Covenant, which would be established later in their journey. Yet, among those gathered was a man named Korah, a Levite whose heart swelled with ambition. Why should we remember only the bread? Are we not all chosen? Must the descendants of Aaron hold such honor alone? He voiced, his words tainted with bitterness. Moses, troubled by Korah's lack of humility, fell upon his face before the Lord. Hear me, O God, he pleaded, for there are those who seek to rise against your appointed leaders. Grant us wisdom and strength to guide this people aright. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Send forth a call to the people, for I will demonstrate my holiness among you. Let every leader take his censer and place incense before me, that I may choose whom I have set apart. So Moses spoke to the people, Gather together tomorrow, and let us see whom the Lord shall honor. And the people, though filled with uncertainty, obeyed. As the dawn broke, the leaders of the tribes approached with their censers. The air thickened with the scent of burning incense as they stood before the entrance of the tabernacle. Eleazar watched, filled with trepidation, knowing the weight of the moment. Suddenly, a cloud appeared, enveloping the tabernacle, and the Lord commanded, Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in an instant. Moses and Aaron fell upon their faces, crying, O God, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin and you be angry with all the congregation? And as they interceded, the earth opened up beneath Korah and his companions, swallowing them whole, while a fire blazed forth from the Lord. The people gasped in fear, realizing the seriousness of rebellion against God's chosen. In the aftermath, Eleazar found himself pondering deeply, what of God's mercy amidst his judgment? Is this an end or a new beginning for our people? As the whispers of the day faded, the Lord instructed Moses, "You shall make a new leader, and let the budding of his staff signify my choice. For I shall make clear who is holy among you." And as Eleazar observed the unfolding event, the Lord's sovereign plan continued to weave through their trials a tapestry of life forever marked by trust, obedience, and the relentless pursuit of the promised land. And so it was that one question lingered in Eleazar's heart, resonating with divine mystery: what greater wonders await beyond this veil of trial, where faith will lead into a destiny the hearts cannot yet envision? And it came to pass, after the day of judgment had passed, that Moses gathered the people of Israel once more, calling their attention with a voice that carried authority and grave compassion. "Hear, O Israel! The Lord has spoken to me, and I bear a message of hope amidst our sorrows. Though there hath been a great rebellion, our God is a God of restoration." And the people, their hearts still trembling from the earth's swallowing, turned their gazes toward Moses, eager yet fearful of what the Lord would require of them next. Moses continued, "You have seen the consequences of pride and rebellion. Let these events rest upon your hearts as a lesson, a reminder that the Lord's way is perfect, and his plans shall not be thwarted." Then the Lord spoke to Moses saying, "Gather the 12 tribes, and from each tribe, let a chief bring forth his staff, the rod that symbolizes his authority and leadership. And I will reveal whom I have chosen to lead among you." Moses summoned the chiefs, and they came, each bringing forth a dry staff. "We will lay them before the Lord at the entrance of the tabernacle," Moses instructed, "and the one whom the Lord chooses shall blossom, and this shall be a sign unto you." As the sun sank low over the horizon, casting golden light upon the desert sands, they placed the staffs before the Lord. A sacred silence enveloped the gathering, the air thick with anticipation. The elders exchanged wary glances, understanding the weight of the moment. Moses and Aaron stood before the entrance as night draped over the camp, waiting upon the Lord's display of his choice. And on the following day, as the first light broke upon the land, Moses entered the tabernacle to behold the miraculous sign. Lo, when he beheld the staffs, one alone had blossomed, the staff of Aaron, bearing not only buds but flowers and almonds. The sight filled Moses with awe, and he fell upon his face, recognizing the faithfulness of the Lord to his people and to his chosen leaders. "So it is," Moses proclaimed, lifting the sprouted staff high, "that Aaron is confirmed as high priest over all Israel. Let none question his authority, for the Lord himself has sealed this with a sign of life." The people marveled, their fears yielding unto faith. They understood now that God's choice was irrevocable, and that his ways, while oft concealed, bore fruit in his perfect time. But once again, in the multitude, murmurs arose, for the hearts of some remained filled with unrest. Did they not remember the bitter pill of Korah's rebellion? Yet, even amidst their uncertainty, Eleazar stood strong, witnessing the unfolding of God's sovereign plan. "Let us remember to trust in the Lord's provision," he urged, his voice steady. "For he is our guide and our shepherd." And the Lord spoke to Moses again, saying, "Take Aaron's rod and keep it as a sign for the rebellious, that you may put an end to their murmurs against me lest they perish." As Aaron's rod was placed in the ark alongside the golden jar of manna, Eleazar felt the weight of God's covenant promise settle over the assembly. In their waiting, a question stirred, echoing through the hearts of the faithful: what more shall the Lord reveal to us? What greater glories await beyond our struggles, where his promises find their perfect fulfillment? And so, the people stood in silent anticipation, longing to grasp the unfolding revelation of his divine will, trusting in the eternal wisdom of their God, who led them forth even through the shadows. For within each trial lay the pathway to stronger faith, and with each promise, the assurance of a destiny beyond their wildest hopes. And it came to pass, as the days unfolded in their wilderness journey, that the people of Israel experienced the solace of the Lord's assurance. Yet, even amidst their newfound faith, the seeds of doubt took root in the hearts of many, whispering questions of direction and purpose into their weary minds. One day, Moses ascended to the tent of meeting, drawn forth by a holy urgency. Upon entering, he fell upon his face, his spirit seeking the face of the Almighty. And the Lord spoke to him, his voice like thunder softened by love. "Rise, O Moses. Speak unto the children of Israel concerning their journey. For they have not yet understood the depth of my promises." So Moses returned to the people, summoning their attention with a heart full of fervor. "Hear, O Israel. The Lord your God has heard your cries and seen your struggles. He has promised to guide you to a land flowing with milk and honey, a land of rest for your souls." Yet, a murmur stirred among them, as some remembered the giants of the land and the fortified cities that awaited their arrival. Their hearts quaked, and doubt swept through the encampment like a breeze before the storm. "How can we, mere shepherds and laborers, conquer such foes?" they questioned among themselves. Moses, sensing the dismay, urged them, "Do not be afraid. The Lord has promised you victory. Remember the signs and wonders he has performed before your eyes. Was it not he who parted the Red Sea? Was it not he who provided manna from heaven? His ways are higher than our ways, and his strength knows no bounds." Yet still, some remained unyielding, their hearts bound by the chains of fear. Then Joshua and Caleb, two among the 12 spies sent to survey the land, rose in their midst with eyes ablaze with courage. "We are well able to overcome the giants," they proclaimed with fervent conviction. "For with God on our side, who can stand against us?" But the assembly, swayed by the overwhelming voices of anxiety, began to stone them with their words. The timidity of the majority threatened to drown out the boldness of the faithful. Moses fell before the Lord, pleading for mercy upon the people, who were blind to the truth of their God, and the Lord spoke to Moses, "I have seen this rebellion and their refusal to trust in me. Yet, as I live, I will not abandon the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. For my covenant is everlasting." Then the Lord gave Moses directions for the people's journey, commanding him to tell the congregation, "In the face of trial, seek me, and you shall find. For I will reveal to you signs and wonders, both great and mysterious. Let not your hearts be troubled, for even now I am preparing a way in the desert." In that moment, Moses stood tall, empowered by divine purpose, declaring to the people, "Trust in the Lord and he shall make your paths straight. He leads you beside still waters, he restores your souls. Wait upon him, and he will unveil the greater glory that lies just beyond the horizon." The hearts of the people trembled, yet they felt the stirrings of hope beneath the weight of their fears. They began to see with new eyes, inspired by the resolve of Joshua and Caleb, who were unwavering. Yet uncertainty still lingered as the shadows of the past loomed large, and the question hung heavy in the air, "What shall become of us?" As they contemplated their fate, the Lord spoke again to Moses, "Prepare the hearts of the people. For my works are not yet complete, and I will show them a revelation of my sovereign plan, a promise that will transcend the giants before them and lead them into the fullness of their calling." And the Lord continued to speak to Moses in the hush of the tent, "Gather the leaders of the tribes, and let them come forth. For they must know the depths of my commands and the power of my presence among them." So Moses called the elders, the princes, and the heads of the Israelite families, and they stood before him, their eyes filled with trepidation yet longing for assurance. "Hear the word of the Lord," he uttered, lifting his hands as a sign of divine authority. "You shall be a testimony of my righteousness, and I will show you wonders that will dwarf the fears that bind your hearts." As they listened, a hush fell over the assembly, their ears tuned to the voice of the Almighty, which had become like a tranquil stream amidst tumultuous waters. "For I shall rain down my blessings upon you in ways you cannot yet fathom. The land you shall enter is not birthed of man's endeavor but of my divine promise, nurtured through generations." Moses paused, looking into the faces of the elders, seeking to ignite within them a flame of hope. "But first, you must see with eternal eyes. You must know that with every step you take in faith, I will cast away your fears like chaff before the wind. Do not waver, and do not shrink back, for I am the Lord of hosts, your God." Then the Spirit of the Lord enveloped the tent as Moses declared, "As a sign that I am with you, among you, and will not forsake you, I will perform a miracle. Tomorrow at daybreak, go forth towards the Red Sea, and you shall see my deliverance." A murmur of awe rippled through the assembly as they exchanged nervous glances, yet in their hearts, a flicker of hope stirred. From the midst of them, Joshua and Caleb raised their voices, each echoing the spirit of the moment. "Let us press on, for he who promised is faithful. He has not brought us here to abandon us in fear." The flock began to awaken, and soon their resolve hardened like iron. The leaders rallied the people, and together they gathered what they could carry, a token of their faith. As dawn broke, they made their way towards the sea, anticipating the Lord's mighty act. The air crackled with tension, and as they arrived, they beheld the waters, crashing and alive with ferocity. Fear once more threatened to seep into the hearts of the crowd, but then, at the shoreline, Moses raised his staff, and an impassioned cry rang out, "Fear not. For the Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace." As he spoke, a great wind began to blow, and the waves parted as the breath of God coursed through the sea. The ground beneath them became dry, transformed by divine power. A pathway appeared, stretching wide before them, a vivid testimony to God's unwavering faithfulness. The people, in sheer wonder, stepped forth, hearts pounding not from fear but from a fierce blazing faith. Families clasped hands and waded into the miraculous passage, their spirits ignited by the hope that only the Lord could bestow. They marched on, the sound of their footsteps a symphony of trust, yet, the shadows loomed behind them, with the cries of rebellion echoing through the encampment. And in a cloud of dust, the faithless sought to follow, whispering doubts into the hearts of the hesitant, but the Lord's voice reverberated over the waters, "I will not allow the faithless to prevail against my chosen. For you, O Israel, are my inheritance counted among the nations, and I shall emerge victorious on your behalf." Thus, they crossed the Red Sea, and the murmurs of doubt fell silent before the shout of their deliverance. And as they stood upon the other side, the sun illuminating their path, they beheld the unfolding of God's sovereign plan, but what they had yet to discover loomed still ahead, a destiny entwined with promises yet unfulfilled, and divine revelations that would lay the foundation for generations to come. As the last of the Israelites stepped onto the dry land, a profound stillness enveloped the scene. The waves, still towering like massive walls on either side, loomed as a testament to the divine intervention they had just witnessed. Moses turned to the people, their faces aglow with the radiance of miraculous hope. "Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously, the horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea," he declared, and his voice soared over the sound of crashing waters. The women, led by Miriam the prophetess, took up instruments and began to dance, their voices blending in jubilant praise. "Sing to him, sing to him. For his mercy endures forever," they proclaimed, their hearts united in worship before the Almighty. The air was thick with joy, lifting the veil of despair that had threatened to consume their spirits. As they rejoiced, Moses instructed the people to gather stones from the banks of the miraculous passage. "Let each of you take a stone, and with it, we shall create a memorial to the Lord, that future generations may know of his unfailing love and mighty works," he said, and they obeyed, filling their arms with stones heavy with purpose. In that moment, the Lord spoke again to Moses, his voice reverberating with clarity amidst the sounds of celebration. "Tell the people," he commanded, "that they shall remember this day, for it marks the beginning of my covenant with them. I will bring them into a land flowing with milk and honey, and they shall be my people, and I shall be their God." Yet even as the people reveled in deliverance, doubt lingered like a shadow at the edges of their hearts. "What will become of our enemies?" some murmured. "Will they not pursue us, seeking revenge for our escape?" But the Lord, knowing well the fears that clung to this fragile community, assured Moses, "Fear not, for I will fight for you. The Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again." Days passed as the Israelites journeyed through the wilderness, and though they experienced the overwhelming presence of God, murmurs of discontent began to rise among them. "We are hungry. What have you brought us into this desolation for?" they cried, their trust wavering like a flickering flame. In compassion, the Lord looked upon his people and spoke to Moses, "Behold, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. Each day the people shall go out and gather enough for that day. Thus shall I test them, whether they will walk in my law or not." And so it was that each morning, as the sun gilded the horizon, a fine, flake-like substance appeared upon the ground. The Israelites marveled as they collected the manna, a heavenly sustenance that fed both body and soul. Yet even as they gathered, the Lord's instruction lingered to gather only what was needed, trusting that his provision would be enough. Thus, they learned to rely on the Lord daily, their dependence on his mercy becoming a sacred thread woven through the fabric of their faith. And as they wandered, watching the clouds by day and the flames by night, they settled deep within their hearts the truth that God walks with those who trust in him. But as their journey continued, the ground beneath their feet began to shake with a new revelation. The Lord spoke to Moses again from the mountain, "Gather the people together at the foot of Sinai, for on this day I will proclaim my covenant and reveal my laws." And in that moment of divine anticipation, the fervor of destiny clashed with the weight of expectation, igniting within the hearts of the Israelites a burning question: what would God entrust to his chosen people? The answer lay hidden, waiting to transform their understanding of holiness and their place in the vast unfolding tapestry of God's sovereign plan. When the morning light revealed the mountain of Sinai, its peaks shrouded in divine cloud, the people gathered in trembling anticipation at the foot of the sacred mountain. Fear mingled with fervent hope as Moses ascended the rocky slopes, his heart beating in unison with the will of the Almighty. The air thick with expectancy, they could scarcely breathe as they waited to hear the voice of God. As Moses climbed higher, the presence of the Lord enveloped him like a consuming fire. Thunder rumbled and lightning flashed, the very essence of God's glory displayed in a spectacle that gripped the hearts of those below. "Prepare yourselves," the Lord commanded Moses, "for I shall come to you in the thick cloud, so that the people may hear me and believe you forever." Moses relayed these instructions to the people, warning them, "Sanctify yourselves today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes. Be ready for the third day. For on that day, the Lord will come down upon Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people." The Israelites, filled with awe, followed the commands, their spirits united in a sacred preparation. On the third day, as dawn broke, a great sound filled the air, a voice like a trumpet calling forth the heavens to witness. The mountain shook violently, and the cloud that covered Sinai descended in a dark and glorious display, resonating with majesty and power. And in that moment, they beheld the holiness of God manifested, both terrifying and beautiful. Moses stood between the people and the glorious manifestation, a humble mediator. The Lord spoke, and his words thundered like chariots across the skies, "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage." Each word was heavy with authority, impressing upon the hearts of the Israelites the weight of their covenant with him. Thus, God revealed his commands: "You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol." The people trembled and felt the depth of their unworthiness before the Holy One. Yet within them, hope blossomed anew as they realized that the very commandments given were a gift, a guide leading them from the darkness of slavery into the light of freedom. As the Lord continued, proclaiming statutes and commandments, he revealed the heart of his covenant, the promise of love and faithfulness to those who would walk in his ways. "You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God," he instructed, underscoring the reverence due to his holy name. And as he spoke, the revelation deepened like an engraven stone upon their hearts. But amidst the grandeur, doubt flickered among the people, for the roar of God's voice echoed their fears. "Moses, speak to us yourself and we will listen, but do not let God speak to us, or we will die." Their plea mingled with the fear that gnawed at the edges of their faith. The Lord, sensing their dread, replied to Moses with compassion, "Do not be afraid, for I have come to test you, that the fear of me may be before you, that you may not sin." Yet, just as quickly as his commandments were given, the hearts of the people began to wrestle with their trust. Would they cherish his laws or yield to the temptations whispering in the wilderness? The balance between faith and doubt hung in the air like the clouds above. As Moses descended with the tablets inscribed by the very finger of God, the Israelites stood entranced, trembling at the extraordinary encounter their leader had endured. Would they, like him, anchor themselves in the certainty of God's promises, or would they falter in the days to come? And so the stage was set for deeper journeys, a trial of faith, a path of obedience, and an eternal covenant ripe for fulfillment. The shadow of the promise loomed heavily, whispering of the climax that awaited. What lessons would they learn, and what powerful transformations would unfold as they ventured deeper into the wilderness, towards a destiny woven in the very heart of God's sovereign plan? As time unspooled through the wilderness, the people of Israel gathered not only at the foot of Sinai but within an ever-deepening understanding of their covenant with the Most High. Eleazar, now a pillar of encouragement among the tribes, witnessed the unfolding wonders of God's faithfulness, each moment knitting the hearts of the people closer to their Creator. In the tents and around the evening fires, stories of God's mighty acts were shared. Remembrances of the plagues, the Red Sea's parting, and the daily gift of manna cultivated a garden of faith among them. Yet even amidst such miracles, the shadows of disbelief slinked through the crowd, silently sowing seeds of dissent. A discordant whisper grew louder, and murmurs of discontent questioned the very nature of the God who had led them thus far. It came to pass that a rebellion brewed within the hearts of some, a division led not by faith, but by the alluring call of self-importance and ambition. Korah's voice rose above the throng, "Is it only through Moses and Aaron that we shall serve the Lord? We are a holy people." With these words, a discordant note rang through the camp, and doubt festered like an open wound. Moses, sensing the gathering storm, fell to his knees before the Lord, pleading for the hearts of the people. In response, the Almighty spoke with resonant clarity, "Separate yourselves from those who rise against me. This day shall reveal my power and authority." The next dawn, the camp simmered with tension as the leaders assembled. With trembling hands, Eleazar took his place, observing the sight of people who had once crossed the boundaries of faith, now teetering on the precipice of rebellion. The Lord commanded Moses to call forth the rebellious tribes to bring their censers, and as the leaders approached, the ground quaked, and the skies darkened. "What is this?" the people questioned, fear creeping back into their hearts. The Lord's thunderous voice echoed through the camp, "I shall make clear my choice, for the people must understand the seriousness of following me." And as the censers were set before the tabernacle, a fire consumed Korah and his followers, and the earth itself opened, swallowing them whole. Silence enveloped the encampment as the gravity of divine judgment unfolded, but the Lord, in his infinite mercy, gave Moses a prophecy of hope. "Take Aaron's south rod and place it before the covenant box. I shall reveal my chosen servant," the Lord commanded, and so it was that the rod of Aaron, which now lay amongst the other staves, budded forth, blossoming with life. The sight filled the hearts of the faithful with awe. "Indeed, God has chosen," Moses exclaimed, holding forth the staff bearing blossoms and almonds, a testament to God's unshakable purpose. Eleazar's heart rejoiced amidst the tumult, recognizing that each lesson, each trial was paving the way for deeper reliance on God's sovereignty. "Look upon the Lord's wonders," he urged as the people began to turn away from their fear. "He has called us, he sustains us, and his promises will never falter." Days turned to weeks, and as the Israelites continued onward, a lingering hunger filled not only their bellies but their souls for the unwavering presence of God. Eleazar led prayers under the canopy of stars, urging the people to remember, even when they thought the path too perilous, that they were graced to travel forward. One morning, Moses convened once more, his face illuminated with fervor. "The Lord bids us prepare for what lies ahead. We shall enter the land of promise. Trust that he will go before us, and the giants that loom will be overcome. For with God, all things are possible." The people trembled, fear and anticipation dancing like flames in their spirits. Then, with one voice of unity, a chorus of past brokenness turned to present hope. They declared, "The Lord our God is with us. We shall go forth." And thus, the Israelites stood on the brink of their promise. A land flowing with milk and honey awaited them. The doubt that had lingered in hearts transformed into praise as they prepared to step into a future crafted by God's faithful hands. Eleazar, standing among his people, felt a glorious wave wash over him, knowing that this journey had not only been won through the desert but through the very depths of their souls. They would be a people molded by faith, united in purpose, forever marked by the miracles they had witnessed, and so they moved forward, into the land of promise, hearts bound in belief, stepping onto sacred ground where God's eternal covenant was about to unfold in ways that would echo through generations. The shadows of doubt behind them, and the light of hope guiding them, they embraced their destiny, an unbreakable bond forged in trust, forever loyal to the God who had delivered them from the shadows into his marvelous light. As they journeyed through the land, Eleazar often looked upon the horizon of their promise, understanding that God's story was just beginning, a divine foundation laid for their lives in a covenant woven with grace, mercy, and unyielding love. Beloved, do not forget this miraculous journey is one we are invited into every day. We must hold fast to the truths God reveals to us and share His wondrous works with the world. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word as we continue to explore powerful biblical stories. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth, so please, leave a like now to help us reach more people in need of God's love. Comment below on how this story has impacted your faith and share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Don't wait even one more second, and join us in spreading His message throughout the earth. Your support can transform lives and lead many into the light of His love.